Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning. Dang it. Here, Brandy.
Happy Monday. Y'all left me wide open for that one.
Yeah.
Best day of the week. Good morning. Happy Monday. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. The boxes are my background, but today is kind of the day we move in. The soft move starts today. So maybe there'll be less boxes. There'll be a different background the next time you see me. So,
Well, by now, Brandy, you've got to be a pro with setting up 800 apartments through the years. This is just another
yes,
day in the life.
I was like, if we buy any new furniture, I actually can assemble it pretty well.
Brandy no longer needs the instructions. She just starts with
Better. Yeah. The quality of the end product, still TBD, but I can do it.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's so good to see both of your faces. Michael, long time no see. Just got done seeing your face in Auburn. How was your time at the retreat? I had a 10 out of 10 experience.
It was fantastic. Yeah. Sometimes you bring some groups together and you don't know how they interact with one another, and everyone just meshed so well, so nicely.
Mhm.
We had a couple tricks up our sleeve or surprises that came out throughout the event. And the big one was having the founder of Ritz-Carlton, Horst Schulze, come and speak to us for what was supposed to be about 15 minutes and ended up being about an hour and 15 minutes. And I have like pages and pages of notes that I've never taken, pen to paper notes in the past decade, probably. And just writing away. So I will have a little blog post on Nook coming up soon on my recap of our time with Horst. But any highlights that jumped out at you, Will?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say my big lesson. I love what Dan Driscoll asked one of the co-founders of Boutique at the end, because he's like, "All right, Horst, you talk about this vision and this mission. Do you ever feel like you accomplish it? And like, if you accomplish it, what's next? Like, how do you kind of like keep going and making sure that's like fulfilled longer than just that one moment?" And Horst's answer was awesome in the sense of like, he felt like he never fully accomplished the mission of creating the best hotel company in the world. He knew stuff was still being dropped, or mistakes still happened, but I guess the lesson learned for me was that like, no matter what the bar or the standard is, you're never going to achieve it. So keep setting the bar and standard higher, because it's just going to push you to like deeper excellence. As we all know, Ritz-Carlton was one of the best brands in the world. So to even achieve that type of level of accomplishment is super important. So that was kind of my like big takeaway, is like, push the boundaries, always go above and beyond, whether the standard is here, push the standard there. Just really, it reminded me of my Army days with my platoon sergeant saying, we set the standard, just always like that. Military standard is here. We can go above and beyond. Just because they say you can run, 20-minute 2 mile to qualify, you should run a 15. You should continue to push that boundary and know your limits. So I think it was a good reminder of that.
Yeah, and their intent from day one at Ritz-Carlton was to become the world's leading hotel company. And they did that, I think, 14 years in a row. And the biggest gist of his discussion was that it is the leader's job to come up with that intent, that mission. And he says too many companies' vision statements look like a mission statement and not a vision statement. So by having that very clearly defined for your company, become the world's leading hotel company. If you're interviewing a cleaner, they know the expectation. If you're interviewing a front desk agent, they know the expectation. Over and over again, they just repeat it, just basically indoctrinate everyone to the same goal, which is to become the best. And I don't know if I've ever seen another company with like such a clear intent
Mhm.
And then obviously that can trickle all the way down. And Hans, who was hosting us, who worked with Horst for 20 something years, he basically said, like, the good old days of Ritz-Carlton back in their glory, they've faded off as a brand to some extent, largely after
Yeah.
the acquisition with Marriott. But it's been like those good old days where everything just hummed to absolute perfection because everyone knew the mission, everyone was aligned, everyone understood, how to behave, how to respond. And one of the coolest things that I was unaware of is, Horst has done some consulting with other brands. He's very selective. The two most notable other brands that you can see a direct impact in customer service would be Chick-fil-A. So Horst coined the term "my pleasure," and he also took on Delta as a client. And since then, they've been consistently year after year the highest customer service ratings. So the man's a guru with all things people. And the amount of times that he used the word nice, it's not something you hear too often just in daily life, but that had to have been just kind of a core central theme at Ritz-Carlton, is just be nice to people. And that's often missing in hospitality, and I get it. It's hard to be nice all of the time, especially, when someone's upset or angry at you. But those are the moments when someone's upset and angry at you that you can be nice and turn their perception around and build a loyal traveler, a loyal guest. So rant over.
No, it's a happy rant.
Lots of good.
I had the biggest FOMO from that retreat. It looked fantastic. And I was super bummed about missing that talk because one of my favorite lessons from his book is that, like, the ask why 5 times, because when they were trying to figure out why their room service scores were low, it actually ended up being the cause was they didn't order 3 par or whatever par enough to keep them stocked. So the service was taking too long because the laundry's getting in the way and holding the elevators. And so I think what an amazing, and also it just really goes to show his character that somebody else could have phoned it in, been like 19 minutes and 59 seconds. My time is done. Thank you. But you can tell he really cares that he took that amount of time to speak with everyone.
He was so passionate. Yeah. Extremely
Well,
passionate.
the coolest thing for me is just like knowing that was a surprise and seeing on the itinerary that everyone was just like, what's 20-minute video call? And we're like, oh, we'll see. And then to have that go as long as it was, and the introduction of him being the founder of Ritz-Carlton and just the look on everyone's faces and walking to the bathroom after the session, everyone's just like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Like the reaction was so good. So I'm still buzzing from it. I'm thinking, we did record an audio version of it. Probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but anyways, I was like editing it, and it just like got my brain thinking a lot more on how we can actually apply a lot of this stuff in our day-to-day business at HFM and throughout life. And yeah, the difference between mission and vision statement, that was also really good, because I think, like you said, Michael, a vision statement isn't something you're currently doing. It's an accomplishment you want to get to. The mission is how you get there. So it's very cool to see the correlation. And then Tanner Cummings, who attended there, said it was so good. So glad you liked it, my friend. All right, you guys, we have a couple interesting, crazy, wild, fantastic topics today. And Brandy, I would love for you to kick it off for us.
Yeah. So this topic takes us to the Jersey Shore. And there's an article that came from the Philadelphia Inquirer about about the Jersey Shore market in general, seeing, cancellations, decreased revenue, all of this stuff. So at first I wasn't really I was like, yeah, like kind of everybody. But then I took a look into the article, and there were some things that really surprised me. So Jersey Shore is probably one of the OG vacation rental markets, a classic Saturday to Saturday, all summer booked market. And it's still a market where you might have to bring your own sheets or your own toilet paper, and maybe just kind of stuck in the ways of the past, because up until recently, there hasn't really been a need for change. They, even with the rise of all the OTAs and Airbnb and all of that, they've still been able to keep that kind of core focus of, the traditional way of booking, maybe through a real estate agent, something like that. And now they're seeing that they're kind of, the cracks were showing last summer, and it really showed this summer, and a lot of vacancies, a lot of dropped rates. And so you have a lot of factors. There's the fact that that kind of style maybe of renting is, while maybe still popular, people might still do their week or 2 week vacation. There's a lot more people that are maybe doing the weekend or whatever, a couple days coming down from the city, something like that. But you had this big boom of people buying properties around the pandemic and charging, at that time they could get, $20,000-$30,000 a month, maybe for a home that does $15,000-$20,000 a month. And now you don't have that kind of demand. And so you also, I think we've kind of, anyone who has a big stable of owners, I've heard this a lot at conferences, getting your owners to agree to lower rates and things like that. And it's like, I think that they're kind of having this come to Jesus moment, where you have these people that are like, we've always had these rates, they've always been this high. And it's like, well, people are now saying, I could spend what, if it's $10,000, let's say total for what your stay is going to be, I could go on a cruise, I could go to Italy, or I don't know, Mexico for 2 weeks or something like that. So there are more options now for people. And you kind of have these mainstays, the originals, that are grappling with a changing vacation rental, short-term rental environment, and are really kind of late to the game. And I'm sure they're not the only ones. I'm sure there are other communities that are heavily vacation rental heavy, that are still playing catch up. But I was a little surprised that in 2024 that this is still kind of going on.
I'll say it's definitely not just Jersey Shore, because when I was in Seaside, Oregon for, my hotel days before COVID, even that community of vacation rentals could even be a little bit behind the times. And so, coastal towns in general, these traditional classic vacation rental markets that, like you said, Brandy, have been around forever. It does seem like they've just got so comfortable with running this way, never thinking about adopting, even if they know or don't know, right? Like, you can see a hotel updates this, does that, but you're like, whatever. Or you could hear about your competition being a little bit more robust with not letting your guests bring their own sheets. Who would have thunk? That would be actually great. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
I remember bringing my own sheets to my very first Airbnb experience. And it was still cool. It was great. I get my own apartment, basically. This was when I was playing volleyball in Europe, and there was I rented a little studio in Budapest. It was like, bring your own towel, bring your own sheets, bring your own pillow. So I had to go to the store and buy a pillow and buy some sheets, because I wasn't traveling with any. I did have a towel, but buy your own soaps and everything. And when you're going on a trip nowadays, you just don't want to pack all that stuff for so many obvious reasons. So there are some excellent solutions out there for things like that. Will?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Michael, why would you bring your own soaps? Why wouldn't your host and your property manager just get Sojo? What the heck? Didn't they know that they can automate their amenities without even a click of a button? They don't even have to think. There's no way that you can miss out on this opportunity, because it's going to streamline your operations. Not one click, not one tech. It's a tech you don't see. Okay. So you never actually have to onboard anything. You just got to sync up Sojo with your calendar, and they'll automatically ship the amenities to your destination or your warehouse, wherever you need to store these amenities for your cleaners to turn over. So that way Michael doesn't have to go to Walmart and get the wrong 3-in-1 shampoo, because we all know 3-in-1s suck. And also Sojo creates better amenities anyway. So shout out to Sojo, getsojo.com/GMH. And now we're back to the episode.
Yeah, perfect segue, King. You've gotten so good at that, Will. But back to Jersey Shore, they're certainly not alone. They might be alone in the whole bring your own sheets. I haven't heard that in years, but the whole Saturday to Saturday thing has faded off in large part. There are still markets, Outer Banks, up and down the
Ski communities.
traditional old school vacation rental communities, which is fine if that's what you know and you expect. But July 4th weekend was a Thursday, July 4th, so people probably wanted to go on a Wednesday and ride it out through maybe Monday. That's just not applicable for the modern traveler, the Saturday to Saturday experience. Now, the other aspect of the article was how much supply has grown, how much revenue has shrunk. And I think pretty much everybody across the board in vacation rentals has seen both of those come to fruition. So when does that reverse? I guess when it gets bad enough, when people aren't making enough to cover their mortgages or their investments, and turn around and sell those assets, and or there's probably a likelihood that prices in those communities come down because people aren't getting the revenues that they need, so they're selling, and then the more that are on the market for sale, the more the price drops. Just basic economics. So
Yeah, I think one of the other things is that they were saying like that these beach communities do have like a pretty robust, maybe comparatively to other kind of resort communities, like year-round community residents and all of that, and they're getting pushed out. And you have like, these are very tiny parts of the country. So like if a bunch of homes in like the main part of town get purchased, like it's not like nothing is close, or you have to drive all over the bridge and get back to the mainland to get to find a place to live. But I think that this is, I think before homes will be sold again, they might return to the long-term market, just because it's could be so difficult to buy a home now. So we'll see. But I don't think it's going to happen as fast as they think, unfortunately. I think that in the article, there's kind of almost this air of like, yep, they're going to realize after the season, everything's going to return to the long-term markets. And I don't think it's going to be quite as swift to leave as it was to arrive.
I will say my hot take on this, to go into the next topic, is that there is a loyal traveler group that does kind of appreciate or maybe still live by this old school way of booking vacation, whether it's Saturday to Saturday, bring your own linens, towels, etc. But I don't think it's going to be long. I would be surprised if we see these markets survive another year or two. But speaking of loyalty in that traveling kind of like way or method, Michael, let's talk about loyalty over here.
Yeah, I think the generational Saturday to Saturday is just that. It's generational. I don't think that's something our generation will carry into booking patterns in the future.
Yeah.
I remember going Saturday to Saturday to 2 different spots every year. So I think a lot of us have lived it, but that era is probably over. But Skipped put out an article today or yesterday that in terms of number of bookings from loyalty member properties, 50% of all nights booked in the big flags, Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt, IHG, those are booked through loyalty members. And for the first time, there's a decrease in business travel or kind of super user loyalty members, and an increase in kind of the consumer side of things, which ties in very much so to the credit card usage of these companies, of Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt, or even like an Amex Platinum, where you can get status or get a level upgraded for each of basically any different hotel company that you want. And it's really interesting to see that dichotomy that, they know 50% of their travelers already, which is wild. The challenge could be for independent properties in the future to stand out and to, once you get a little bit of loyalty and you get a couple of the perks coming in from those loyalty programs, a room upgrade, an extra night free, it's tough then to go stay in an independent hotel. I am probably, each of you probably prefer staying in independent hotels. And similarly with airlines, I'm a Delta loyalist. I probably should book other airlines from time to time, but I don't, because I'm loyal, because I get these perks, this and that, the miles. I'm a little scared at what might happen to the independents, and if there's just ultimately going to be a massive independent brand that has all these same perks. And a lot of it comes down to the credit cards. Now, tying that into short-term rentals, no one has gotten anywhere close to scale. Like, the largest any property manager has gotten is 40,000 units or so. That is like the MGM Grand. That's part of Marriott. That's like 40,000 rooms. So it's really nothing insane. But if we can crack that code and build a national brand, whether a soft brand or a hard brand, and then have perks like credit card usage, being able to book on Amex, or getting automatically enrolled through whatever, Capital One, I think that could be a real boom for vacation rentals. And it just takes someone getting to that level.
Yeah, I kind of liken this to, if anyone's a big skier or snowboarder, this is like Epic versus Icon passes. So Epic is the Vail Corporation. They own so many resorts across the country and have affiliations with resorts in Chile and Japan and Switzerland. And so you can go anywhere. There's hardly any blackout dates. It's really, honestly, it's pretty great. And then a lot of the other independent resorts were like, what are we going to do? Because this is incredible. So they have the Icon Pass, and there's more restrictions because they aren't all owned, obviously, by the same entity, but they were able to kind of band together and have another offering so that people can have some flexibility and buy this like big season pass to go around and explore all the mountains. So I might think that like the independent hotel groups might do something like that, where you're not going to have the same kind of benefits as you might as a Bonvoy member. But if you are really dedicated to independent hotels, or you're going to locations where maybe there are more independent hotels and that's just where you prefer to stay, then you might, that could be an option. And that could be applicable to short-term rentals as well. Although I kind of doubt we're going to see like Sonder and Vacasa teaming up to offer the Icon Pass of STRs, but you never know.
Well, I think to the main point, Michael, talking about like a soft brand making it, or either a big brand, I don't know if our industry or at least our sector with vacation rental, short-term rentals can get there, because we've never seen anyone get really past the 35,000. We talked about Evolve, Avant Stay, like whatever. No one's really, like, even Vacasa Turnkey, no one got really past 35,000 or 40 without, at least that's what Carl Shepard said at Skift. I just don't know if it would be one brand. I think it's going to be a collective. We're going to have to depend on someone to become a Marriott, someone to become a Hilton, someone to become a Hyatt, someone to become an IHG, and to hopefully potentially be a collective enough of a group of short-term rental properties that can make it happen. I just also don't know if it's even possible with how everyone runs their business so different, the inventory is so different. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's something that we'll see anytime soon. At least it's going to be this. Yeah, it's a beast.
Loyalty, it's a big driver for bookings with hotels, but a lot of the hotels hate the loyalty programs.
Exactly. It's a real nightmare for your balance sheet. It also creates these, from a customer service perspective, there's honestly no one more annoying than someone who is like loyalty member and thinks that means that they can behave a certain way towards people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't know that I'm a diamond medallion, bullion, gold, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're just a person that's yelling at me right now. And it's like, just because you have status doesn't give you a right to be an asshole. And I think that's the other side of it. Like, it should go both ways. You should be able to earn your points and earn your status, but then you should have to take like, how big of a jerk are you test? And then that brings down your level of loyalty because
nice.
exactly. Just be nice. Fake it. Just fake it.
Have a
But
have a real level-headed conversation. Don't freak out and blow your gaskets. We don't need that
yeah,
anymore.
I
That's
didn't have my
so
chocolate on the pillow. Don't
yeah,
you know
so
who I am?
2019. Come on.
So, speaking of loyalty programs, Vrbo has a one key program, which is probably as close as the industry will be for the next 5 years. So, there's probably people closely studying how that's working and how that's rolling out and what the redemption rates are and all of that. But I do think there's only so far an entire platform can take loyalty versus actual companies or operations. So, Brandy, do you want to get into Vrbo's recent updates that would have largely affected you guys in the pandemic or operations in Hawaii, if you have any?
Yeah, it's I guess my overall theme, it's just the OTAs are all becoming very similar, like in terms of their cancellation policies. And so this is, it's the mandating of refunds, even if there is some sort of like force majeure, like we've mentioned, the fires or COVID or a hurricane or things like that. And again, it makes sense when you have these topics or these policies because they are so favorable to the guest. And as a guest, I would also love it if like a hurricane came and I couldn't come to Miami, I would want my money back, obviously. But as a host, I think it's part of like you have no control over when that money is like leaving your account. And if you just go through this huge event that is obviously very expensive and you maybe have a lot of like, and you just have, I mean, in COVID, when we had like $1 million just taken out of the bank account at one time without any warning, it's like you have to, if obviously if there's a big event like that, I think that the OTAs need to have a better system of working with the hosts to figure out a schedule of getting that money back, because that could just destroy a business if you just
And it
don't
did.
give any
It destroyed a
yeah,
ton.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's as a traveler, I experienced both of it. I was traveling during, March 2020. I was in Portugal. So I had to cancel a few different continuing on trips, stays, and it was all dependent on who I booked with. I booked something on booking.com. I booked one thing direct through a friend's company, so I got that back, but I didn't get the booking.com booking back. And you can be mad about it, or you can just say like, that was one, I could have bought travel insurance and I didn't. But two, like no one could foresee these circumstances, and like, let me just get home and stay safe.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well,
I do think travelers, while they might sound really upset and everything, there's some extent of like understanding. Well, a hurricane just hit them. Their life is probably a lot more challenging than mine staying home on this trip is. And so I don't like the unilateral moves by the OTAs, because not only does that business have to give the money back, but now they're dealing with a hurricane that just rolled through their 50 houses or apartments. So compassion is
yeah,
not there.
no. And the travel insurance, I mean, that's also like there are options to protect your trip that people don't take. And in this gift article that we're referencing, Raina from Boutique, who was on the retreat with you guys, had a really great point that if people booked through Vrbo or Airbnb, wherever, and they get their money back, they're probably just going to use that same platform and book somewhere close by or wherever. So the OTAs are still making their money. And so I would love to see, and like, okay, if we're forced to give back all this money, like, are the OTAs refunding all of this money? What happens to the credit card processing fees that are going to like potentially be needed if you're refunding all of these people? So there's just, again, it's kind of like the logistics and of how all this works. And you know how are you supporting your hosts, your suppliers that are going through these crazy natural events and their businesses are potentially destroyed?
Yeah, I get that they're in a tough business in the sense of a two-sided marketplace, but yeah, like you guys said, I think all the OTAs are starting to look the same, and that makes nobody a winner, to be honest, if they all start going to one side, right? So it's I know it's a hard balance, but the more favorable you are to the guests, the more likely you are to harm the hosts, and the more likely you are to take care of the hosts. Sometimes you are taking away from the guests. So there's go
Well,
ahead.
you could also use your service fees to cover the host. The guests could
True.
get refunded, and maybe the host doesn't get that entire thing, but they could get some sort of payment. And I mean, to like see it from the OTA's perspective, I see why all their policies are starting to look the same because you want, the guests, and also for those of you on the live stream, my cat Mia has joined, uh, and but yeah, I can see like you want if I know that on Airbnb I'm gonna get all of my money back if there's a hurricane and I know on Vrbo I'm not, why would you book with Vrbo? So
Yeah.
I do understand from that perspective, but I think, yeah, maybe use some of that service fee to give the host 25% of what that booking would be if there is these crazy natural disasters or whatever.
Yeah. Agreed. Anything coming up for you guys this week? Brandy, obviously moving
I'm
and
Ubering.
making sure
I'm
Mia doesn't crash everything over right now.
I know. What is she? She's getting into stuff back there. I'm actually literally as soon as we hang up from here, calling an Uber to go to the airport. So I have
Nice.
my third European wedding in Ireland is this week.
Oh man, good
Exciting.
luck.
Nice.
Golden.
Yeah, nothing crazy this week. We'll see. I'm personally fascinated with how the events of this weekend will affect travel, whether it's international or domestic. But time will tell, and we'll report on that when we have news.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I hope everyone has a great week. Have fun, Brandy. Safe travels. For all the listeners, thanks for tuning in. For the live viewers, thank you for commenting in. If you missed out on the retreat, guess what? We'll have some exciting news here in the near future to let you in on the next one. Also, some other secret announcements that were shared at the retreat to come live to Good Morning Hospitality that we'll hopefully have ready for you guys next week. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. And as always, we'll see you guys again next Monday.